How's it going, Reef Keepers? I hope you guys are all doing well. My objective today is to show you guys how I am cleaning and maintaining the wet sides of the Jecod DMP series Wavemakers, just in case anybody out there has struggled with it or is just curious how someone else is doing it. I'm crazy about maintenance, so I'm constantly like on a 3 month, 2 month, 1 month clip, depending on the piece of equipment, maintaining my equipment. And I plan to maintenance these every couple months, and recently went ahead and maintenance them. So the way that you take these apart is to turn and remove this outer cage. Now, this band here that you have to grip onto in order to turn it, this band can be sort of difficult to get a purchase on, especially if the pump is wet. But I found kind of a good trick, which is to, I don't know if you guys have ever used those like pot holder or, I'm sorry, like jam jar openers that are like a rubber like circle that you hold in your hand and you grip the top of a jar and twist it open. This is kind of one of those, like inherently. So I have been putting it on there, squeezing it, and using the rubber to turn and release this. So this is a dry unit right now. I let it sit out and be dry. So it's a little tough to take it apart because everything's so dried out. But there's your cage, and then here's your magnetic portion here. Now I will say the Vortec MP series, it's much easier to remove the casing around the magnet. It's just a matter of popping a few tabs. It's harder with this, and I might actually speed this part of the video up if it does prove to be a little bit difficult, but what you want is a screwdriver that has a pretty thin flat tip on it. And I'll hold this up close so you can see there are these little like depressible tabs that are in holes around various portions of the base, right around this surround here. What you want to do is press in, and you're going to have to get the first one started, and then it's a little bit of a complex move. You kind of got to get 2 or 3 of them going all at once, and then you can pull this free. Okay, so I just had to pause the video and actually like hold it up close to me and remove it. You can see, I'm going to hold this up, there are these little, like right here, these little depression tabs. Those are the tabs you have to push in through that hole. And then you have to simultaneously, while you are pushing in on the tab, be providing lift to pull this away. And what's hard about it is the way they're designed, they want to go back into place. So as you are working your way around and lifting these with a screwdriver, they want to pop back into place, and if they do, you have to go back and like do the last one again. I don't even know if this makes sense how I'm describing it, and quite frankly, I'll just be honest with you, this is my biggest point of contention with the Jecod DMP, is how difficult this right here is to achieve. Somebody told me that it was really easy for them, like they just grip the whole thing and press it real hard and pull it out. My hands must not be as strong as that guy's hands, because I just cannot achieve that on any of them. I have to individually depress those little tabs to pull this thing apart, and it is frustrating. Take your time with it, because you can see, like, I'm damaging these. Like, I was trying to do it quickly so I could get back to the video because I have limited time, and I ended up damaging the little tab a little bit with the screwdriver. So I don't know if you guys have a better tool for that, but this is the best I have found so far. Just try to do it. Try to be patient with it. Try to do it carefully, right? So here's that back plate portion, and then here's the actual magnet itself. So like that magnet, the dry side motor will rotate in conjunction with this. It will rotate, and it will cause that propeller to rotate. So yeah, so here's what I have generally been doing with these. Standard scrub brush, I think this is like OXO brand. They sell them on BRS, they sell them cheaper on Amazon, I believe. But basically, when I pull these out, just like a Vortec MP series, there's generally some gunk and detritus and stuff that has built up. So I'll scrub that out, and then I'll scrub it out on this plate as well, and then the cage, anywhere else on the pump that I see build up. And at that point, I turn to this. So this is what Ecotech Marine utilizes and sends with their products as standard for reef safe lubricant. So this is, I don't know if it's Molycot or Molycoat 111 compound by DuPont. I think that's, is it DuPont? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this is what it is. So Molycoat 111 compound. And this is food grade lubricant. So it has been used by reef keepers forever. It's used by mechanics. It's used by, in all kinds of sensitive applications. And it's used by Ecotech Marine as standard. So this is, I'm sure there are other things that you can utilize. Feel free, as long as they're, food grade or better, I guess. I would double check with experts. But I trust Ecotech Marine on this. I'm sure that they did their homework there. So this is like, for this whole tube, which will last me like my lifetime, I think it was $24, $22, somewhere in that range. So pretty good. What I've been doing is I open it up, and then I'm using a piece of a zip tie that I actually clipped. I found it to be pretty good because it's springy. And I just kind of like scoop just a small amount, and I take several scoops as I go. I use just as much as I need. And then I do one of these numbers where it's like you're smoothing peanut butter onto a piece of bread. And I smooth it out in a thin layer and go around and around. Now the thin layer is important. You want to really smooth that out, because I actually put a super thick, way too thick layer on the first pump that I maintenanced. And when I put it back on and I hit go, the entire pump actually rotated because there was so much of this, gloppy gunk that I had put in there, this grease, that it did not allow the magnet to spin free. And the whole thing kind of spun on the suction cups, despite the strength of those, a few times. And then finally it broke free. But it was way too much adhesive, or not adhesive, way too much lubricant, just way too much. So what I would do is continue, whatever utensil you have. Maybe a Q-tip would work, I'm not sure. But these zip ties work pretty good for me. So dip it and continue going around and around and applying that. Now look, I'm no expert on how these things like mechanically work, but here's what I've been doing. So I put it on the back of the magnet. I also put a thin layer around the plate portion on the inside, right? So that when you put it back together, you're going lubricant to lubricant, or lubricated side to lubricated side. Then I also take a little bit of it. I think it says it's not great for your hands. I just wash it off with dish soap afterwards. But I've been taking like a little bit of the lubricant and just making sure that this entire like centerpiece here, this white piece, is completely coated with it, with a little bit at the end. And that way, like, basically anything, anywhere where two components could rub together conceivably, I wanted to have at least this like thin layer of lubricant. Every 2 to 3 months when I do my pump maintenance, anywhere where it could rub, I'm just going to make sure that there is some, some form of friction reduction. So yeah, that's exactly how I've been doing this. To put it back together, by the way, it's the putting it back together part is a lot simpler. You just match up that little tooth right there, that little depressible tooth or what have you, whatever you want to call it, tab, and you match it up on all four sides, and then make sure that you just, like you saw how I just pushed that in, you just, boom, I mean, it's back together. It's done. So super easy to get these things back together. Thread that central rod down the middle, and then just kind of turn it around and work it on there. And then snap it, till it's firmly in place, or twist it till it's firmly in place, and then pop that back cap back on there, and you're done. I mean, like, it's that simple to get it back together. The getting back together part isn't bad. But the portion where you need to get those depressible tabs pushed down so that you can separate the base from the rest of the internal portion on the wet side, really frustrating. So totally understand anybody who's frustrated with that. Just know you're not the only one. Try not to damage your little push tabs there. Try to find maybe something less aggressive than like a steel screwdriver to do it with if you can. But the screwdriver does work. So that's what I got, guys. That's how I'm doing wet side maintenance on these things, every 2-3 months. And I'm pretty religious about my maintenance of my products. And I'm going to be especially religious about the maintenance of these in particular because Jecod does not yet sell individual wet sides, and it remains to be seen if they will do so. I really hope that they do. I think they're leaving a lot of money on the table if they don't. But take care of your wet sides on these. I mean, it's not that a new pump is all that expensive. They're incredibly cost effective to just get a whole new one. It just feels sort of wasteful to get a whole new one if you have a perfectly good motor and you happen to like break your wet side or something, right? So be careful with your wet sides on these DMPs for sure. Otherwise, you might be buying a new one. All right, guys, that's what I had for you. If you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the comments or hit me up on Instagram. Have a good one, guys.